Good morning. I'm here with Brandy and Richard. Oh, wow. Look, I did it again. What should we put here as the footer? What should we put here? I knew I forgot something. That's what happens when you go live. What should we put here? Brandy and Richard, good morning or good afternoon. We're going to have a chat about technology and AI and fears and stuff.
Yeah.
And if anyone wanted to reach you after this call or after this cast,
Yeah.
Where might they go? Because that's what should go in the box at the bottom.
They could go to emergebydesign.net. And there they will find all of our toolbox of goodies. Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Well, there we go. Well, why don't we start with that? What would they find on said toolbox of goodies?
I'll start with me and then I'll let Richard tell you what you'll find about him. But together we're coming together with the left brain logic and the right brain flow. And we are building a platform that supports awakening in whatever way that you need when you show up. With what I'm offering there is my Wisdom Keeper Council, which is a pretty intensive program for people who hold space for their community members. And we learn how to hold space, and we learn about human design and the gene keys and presence practice and meditation, and we do trauma work, and we just learn how to regulate nervous systems of the people who come and sit with us. So that's my Wisdom Keeper Council. And then I offer what's called the Somatic Toolbox, where I am offering tools that help you get to know your body. We are practitioners of this wisdom that asks us to follow our bodies into the places and spaces that are for us. But what happens when we can't hear it? You know, what happens when we're not connected to our bodies? And what I know to be true is most of us aren't. Most of us, in order to survive, have taken our energy out of our body and live from here. And so the process of befriending and allowing your body to exist as part of you is what I offer. And I offer workshops and worksheets and all kinds of practices to help that process. But usually before you get to me, you get to Richard.
Well, that's because in addition to both of us offering all the personal readings that we do and empowerment coaching, I'm working on transit reports and finding this very helpful because I love transits. One, personally, they're fun for me to explore on my own. But they also really bring a great deal of awareness to where we are in our own personal cycle of the life journey. It helps us see the circumstances through the frequency of the planetary alignments. And that could really assist when someone's in crisis to help frame that perspective. And then Brandy brings in the moment embodiment space to help connect us to our bodies and to the circumstance we're in. But yeah, so working on the transits has been my current thrust of effort.
But Richard is also a seasoned faculty member with Human Design America and teaches the entire first year of education for human design as well. So Richard nurtures your brain and I'll nurture your body, and together we'll awaken them both.
Awesome. The astrology and transits things is very interesting. I find myself trying to make sense of it. I have definitely weakness in anything to do with astrology, but it's where I want to focus more energy going forward. I've had a few folks suggest that I don't follow them because they could drive me crazy, right?
They can.
They can, but that's what I help break down. There are so many lenses with which to view the transits. And if you're trying to look at all of them, particularly on a daily basis, that can get overwhelming. And we just don't have a lot of time to do that. But we can also pick particular planets, particular life areas where we are going through something, and take that piece, those planets, that lens, if you will, and apply that to our body graph and work more specifically with something so it's not so overwhelming.
I can tell you that when I sat with Richard for the very first time and he brought together my astrological chart and my body graph, you know, I had been following the experiment for a long time with my body graph. I also didn't know astrology as well as he does. And when he was able to sit down and show me some of the things, not only, you know, that feeling you got when you were so validated when you got your first reading, your human design reading, you were like, wow, this is, I knew this was it. I was feeling that, okay, this was even bigger. It was a deeper, it brought me to like, oh, yeah, I was validated with human design, but then everything that stopped me from being that thing, that design that I am, I thought I was responsible for. I thought I was bad, wrong, and shameful for not being that. But then when I got to see the astrology, I could see the mythology, I could see that this was all planned on my behalf. I could see that each and every little thing that I called myself bad, wrong, and shameful for was actually just part of the whole story. And I know that sounds very cliche, but to actually have that experience is deep. I've never done anything wrong. This is where I adopted the theory, you can't fuck this up. You just can't. No one's ever fucked it up.
So many places to go with this. I'm going to come back to transits for a second, and because I think you can be strategic too, right? Like how to use it. There's a couple of folks I talked to that they're really into like timing the stock market with it, because that's a voting machine or an emotion machine more so than how good is Tesla or Microsoft doing. It's more like what mood are people going to be in on this day when they're making decisions with their finances, right?
Kings have been using astrologers for centuries.
Yeah, well, yeah, I heard the same thing. Like billionaires have astrologers on staff, right? They probably won't acknowledge it because they don't want people to know what their competitive advantage is. So, you know, keep that at bay. But like, I released a video a couple of days ago with Dr. Eleanor, and I call it Ra Uru Hu. And I knew it would be a whole new thing that might disrupt some patterns. And I reached out to my friend Nathan Garrison. So that's Ted Garrison's son. And I just said, like, I want to be strategic about like when to publish this. So I said, I feel like the Gate of Shock is a good one. So, but I'm looking for like what line number. And so he's like, well, I'll do line 3. And he never did really explain why. And I read it and I was like, I don't know, but I'm a line 3. So I thought, okay, well, maybe that's what he meant, right? And he was like, try it. It's an experiment. I was like, oh, right, of course. So it's been an interesting little video. I've had so many people ping me and they're booking sessions with her and they just want to be empowered and they want to hear a different voice. So but yeah, like that was kind of strategic because it was actually like 3 weeks ago and I was sitting on it and was like, should I edit it? And then I sent it to a couple of friends and they're like, I wouldn't edit a thing. Like, don't polish it. It was actually meant to be a restream like this, which is got this nice sort of presentable thing. And we had some technology problems. So that was Zoom. And so it was, I don't know. I'm just going through my process at the time. Yeah. Why it came together. So neat. And then, okay, let's jump to somatics because Brandy, this is what you specialize in. And I've been fumbling in it for 3 years. Like it kind of happened all by accident from one weekend. And it's just been a shit show of experiments that have worked or didn't ever since. But like, I would say I'm in that space, but not with any training, not with, it's like, oh, I've been doing that for a year. Is that what you call it? Right? Like,
nobody needs training. You have a body. You always have. You never won't. And so it's very natural to be in it. And it's very natural that your neurology knows everything it needs to know to keep you healthy and safe and purposeful. It's just you get in the way of it. So when you say, and I hear people say, oh, I've been doing that. Well, yes, because your body knows. I'm just reminding you. Sitting with me is like remembering. It's not like I'm going to tell you anything you don't already know. We all know how to arrive in and exist as this body. A lot of us have trauma that gets to be reworked so that we can allow that to happen. I think that's what somatics is for me. It's not necessarily just about be in your body and stay in your body. It's about marrying the neurology with the body. And I think that that's why it's important to marry and to look at transits and to educate your mind, to give your mind all the information it needs so it can see the patterns when your body expresses those patterns. And something that you said was, I think that I could add a important little caveat is that when using these transits to strategize, remember that you were born in a biology that has a strategy that is designed to bring you everything you fucking want. So you don't have to strategize with your mind using transits. You get to use the transits as a way for your mind to inform your body, and then your body to move you. Where, let's say, Ra Uru Hu, when that came out, your body moving you, I want to put this out, and then your brain saying, okay, here are all of the transits going on, and then your body moving you. It's that symbiosis, that marriage that we get to. It's a practice. It's because we want to use our brain to decide. If we have the information, let's just decide. But we've got to check back in at home. We've got to check back in with her because she knows the way. He's just like, let's go. And she's like, wait. All that information is true, but there is a time and a place to move. And when we move in that time and place, everything that you want and need from this exposure will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's curious to say that because even, I was strategic about placing that video just to jump back, but then everything kind of fell apart and it just kind of happened in that time frame anyways.
Anyway.
I was like, my intention is to do that, and then could never sit down. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing it. And I was like,
here it is.
Came out of the chair and sat in the computer or in the office and, turned it on and did the steps that I didn't want to do up to that point. So
it's to remember that it's a prana, that it's a body, mind. But so they're both making the choices.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where to go next. Where would you like to go? Because you were talking about AI, right? And
yes, I would love to invite Richard in to talk about. He had a beautiful expression yesterday. We were talking about, you and I were going to get together and we were going to talk about the new release of the robocars. And so Richard and I sat and kind of talked about what was alive in us about that. And really what came alive in both of us was this 6-line perspective that I'd love to have him share with you.
Well, I'll get it going, I guess.
Yeah.
But when you suggested that topic, of course, I'm immediately thinking about technology, AI, and Pluto moving into Aquarius. And he's there right now, has dipped his toes in there, made it to 2 degrees, and I'm going to turn retrograde pretty soon and go back into Capricorn one more time until finally in November later this year, Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. And everything we're seeing right now in terms of technology is already kind of mind-blowing. And you probably see it. We're working with some platforms where we have our webpage and incorporating AI into marketing programs and all this. And it's unbelievable. And it's almost on a daily basis, the trickle of AI being used across so many different platforms and technologies. But yet it's literally the trickle. Like we are at the headwaters, like a river. We're up where it's a stream. But over these coming years with Pluto and Aquarius, I think we're going to see a tidal wave of speed and change that we need to be adaptable to. Things are going to happen at a pace we've never in the history of mankind known before. Now, I think the supportive aspect is that it's in Aquarius, which is the water bearer. It's fixed air sign, but it has the element of water in the image. Water is life-giving. Water is for everyone. And so the sign itself, I think, indicates the qualities of the social equality to equal support. I mean, a real leap in humanity is possible.
Yeah.
It's just that there's a lot of things that we need to understand and do that we're not aware of yet. And that's what Pluto's job is. Pluto always uncovers the hidden. We have to go into the underworld or beneath the earth to mine the gold that's there. But that's an arduous project. And I think so much change that's happening and will continue to happen will be very fear-inducing for many. And I think we're already seeing that. And so whenever we're talking these cool new things that are popping up, there's a tidal wave coming behind it that we may not be quite ready for, but we don't have an option. And so I think all of these things we've started talking about, which is aligning with our body, having tools to regulate, this will become even more important as this fear factor, I think, will increase throughout popular culture because it's like a sci-fi movie and we're just haven't even gotten through the first credits.
Yeah.
Now, what I'll share about the transits that was part of our discussion is that I'm like, if we look at this Rave New Year, which started in January, and I'm tracking the moon cycle because they're like our chapters of each month, we can kind of see the story unfold by following the lunar cycle. And this is our third new moon that we just had a week ago in this Rave New Year. And we're only seeing in each moon, at the new moon, one individual channel. And the Rave New Year chart itself only had one channel of individuality, which was the perfected form, ancient intuitive behavior in the now to be empowered.
Mhm.
And now we're getting all of these individual activations at these real critical moments of the cycle. And so I keep seeing individual circuitry, and all that that means
Mhm.
is where the transit field is driving us inward. So if we look outward, we're seeing unlimited Neptunian crisis across the globe on a scale we've never seen and all this. But yet what these can be happening right now, what we're being supported to do is to find out, what is my unique inspiration right now?
Mhm.
Who am I on this crazy planet? What's my voice? And how can I express that in a self-empowered way? And that alone, we often can feel futile. There is the futility. I'm just me, and there's 8 billion people, and it's beyond my control. But yet, just working on my inner core does change the frequency of the playing field. And I also think, because of Pluto and Aquarius and the speed at which things can happen, revolutions can happen. And that's what Pluto and Aquarius represents. The last time this happened was in 1775. We had the American Revolution, the French Revolution. And we're going to see, not necessarily, hopefully, not more wars, but whatever's happening, more on a technological scale, we can see advanced rapid changes, again, unlike we've ever witnessed before. So I have tremendous hope, even though it's kind of like we're going through a birthing canal. It's quite tenuous, tender, and scary.
Yeah.
But for those that are doing this inner core work of finding and healing their chironic wound on their hero's journey of self-empowerment, you couldn't ask for better tailwinds right now.
Mhm.
And that's how I use the transits, as like a letter from a loving parent
Mm.
saying, this is coming. Regulate, girl. This
Mhm.
is coming. Be within yourself. This is coming. Who are you? This is happening. What's your expression? Like, that's how I use these transits.
And me too, Sean. I mean, I don't do predictive astrology. It's a big field, and I'm sure, again, lots of financial people do. There's a whole industry actually around it. But we use it as an alignment tool, just like the body graph. There are patterns. We're basically reconnecting with nature, which, as modern people, we have to actually do that now. It used to be natural to follow the sun and the moon and the seasons, and we're so disconnected. But that's, again, when I look at the transits, I'm looking at how to align to my pattern within a pattern, which is within another pattern and another pattern. So we're just sort of using that to bring us back to the core of where it started for us. And that's why these transits are interesting too, because every transit we live through is set from the moment of birth, right? So any of the big ones we go through, they're there. They're part of the cycle and maturation. I think of the channel of maturation. It's a growth process. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then here we go again.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think in terms of technology, and coming back to the question that we were going to be here to talk about, what came alive in both of us is this perspective that we took that says, yes, we could talk about this event that's happening and how the transits marry that event or show that that event is happening. But where I think we felt most valuable, or where our contribution could be best in this conversation, is talking about the fear that comes along with rapid changes in the way that we do things on a day-to-day basis. The fear that comes in someone when they're standing on the street corner and they see a car with nobody driving it, but it's driving, or when it pulls up next to them. The fear that is going to start existing in the bodies of the people when technology changes the way they do everything.
Yep.
And so that's where I thought we were better served. We
Yeah.
thought that we were better served in having that conversation about fear, and about how it doesn't have to, we don't have to be afraid, but we can be if we want. And then we can, use that fear to drive whatever it is that's supposed to be driving it. But to understand that there's something that's happening and it's inviting us into an internal process.
Mhm. Well, it's also something that I've owned a Tesla for 3 years, and I get lots of feedback on it. And even my kids wouldn't even want to drive it to school because they would Like there was some sort of like thing that came along with that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you've got a Tesla. Well, we paid for it. We have a loan, right? It wasn't about wealth. It was about like this is the right vehicle for the future. And where am I going with that? I had a point. Wait a second. Um, yeah, just like this is coming no matter what people think. You know, there's a series of photos that went around a bunch of years ago, but it was like it was a street in Manhattan, and it was like 1910 or something, and it said, "Find the car in this picture." And then it showed the same street in 1918, and it said, "Find the horse and carriage," because it was like right. And in 10 years, it went from like all horse and carriage to one,
Mhm.
and that was at a time when technology moved way slower. So if we think that this isn't coming and we're going to resist it, because most people I talk to, when they see the car, like, oh, I could never do that. You're going to pry my car from my cold dead hands and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, your insurance carrier is going to charge you $25,000 a year to insure the car because you're the problem. You're going to drive angry. You're going to be eating a ham sandwich while putting on lipstick. You're going to be,
Yeah.
you can't see 360 degrees. You're tired. You're in a rush. These
Yeah.
cars are not. And like we're the problem. So you can sit in the car and just have a conversation with each other, or do a puzzle, or
Right.
have a nap, or
Yeah.
so like I see a world where we're just gonna have like driving tracks. Like if I had land, I'd be building a cool driving track and rent
Yeah.
it out on the weekends. Like go get your rocks off if you love to drive.
Yeah.
And people say they love to drive. No, they don't. Like there's a certain percentage that do, and then the rest it's just like that's their time. Well, what
Yeah.
if we make
Yeah.
time better, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's going to shift a lot of things.
Oh,
I
right.
think so.
Beyond imagination.
Yeah. And I think that I have this idea or this vision, I guess, and probably will never happen in my lifetime, but as I'm planting the seeds for it to occur later, is that we're all going to not have to chop the wood and carry the water. We're all going to have time. We're all going to have the ability to investigate what it is that lights us up. And I know that there's going to be a process between now and then. And that process is going to be the way that we do things being ripped from our cold, dead hands in order to realize that the way we used to do things are not the best. And they don't allow us time to explore who we are and why we are here. They fill us with all of these things to do to be human, that we don't have to do that anymore. We can take advantage of the way that we've used our brains to create all of these helping mechanisms to take that off our plate so that we can shine as our most authentic selves. And I don't have to create fucking email templates because that's not the highest and best use of me.
No.
But but I can have something help me do that in an instant so that I can then send those emails and be impactful to those people.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think this is going to be obviously a big problem is going to be self-esteem, because a lot of people think they get their self-esteem from their job. That's how I
Right.
provide value. But if what your job is stamping things that a robot arm could do,
Yeah.
let it do it and find what you're passionate for. And,
Yeah.
we got to kind of bring it back to the fear thing. Like for me, human design, for example, is helping me be more intuitive. And we need to be intuitive at a time where emails and spam and phishing is happening so fast and it's so aggressive that you need to be able to have your wits about you. And I think that's kind of what intuition is, right? So that's, I feel prepared. I feel like I have a competitive advantage right now entering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think education is the best competitive advantage. And I don't mean education like college. I mean education like what is really fucking happening here. What is the particles doing? And then when the particles do this, what is my behavior doing? And then when my behavior does this, what is the outcome of that in the field? Like we need to be educated about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think too, because we're already seeing this, the way this technology is going and the homogenization ends up being factionalism.
Yeah.
And so everybody, just because they're going with the flow of their lack of inner authority, they're ending up in these groups that are so isolated from the other groups. And that's why we're seeing such conflict. But the message, again, that seems to be jumping off the charts is finding this ultimate truth and inspiration of why we are born right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just to be aligned. We may align with others, we may commune, we'll have our networks, but really about speaking our voice, our unique expression. And that's what this week's a great week to be talking about this, because this is the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. It will be exact on Saturday. It's already in strong effect in the frequency. Is happening in gate 23, line 4, fragmentation, a gate of assimilating our unique insights with others. And so this is, Uranus has been doing quite a job in 23. It's been there and did its whole retrograde cycle, but lining up with Jupiter, this is an incredibly explosive, powerful frequency that can help all of us find that voice right now. And we also have the channel of initiation, this entire lunar cycle. Neptune in the 25, North Node 51 with Chiron. Chiron was exactly conjunct this total solar eclipse to the minute. And it just really is sharing this idea that what's happening right now, as global as we feel, it's individual right now. And it's part of this transmutation to 2027. I feel like this is the lead up to that shift.
Yeah, these are the letters from our benevolent parent that are giving, they're sending it to us. Okay, here's an opportunity for you to come forward, for you to express yourself. Come hell or high water. There is no good of the collective. You don't have to be good for the collective. Just be your fucking self. I just got that letter from my dad through Uranus and Jupiter's conjunction, right? It says, here you go, babe. Just say it. It doesn't have to be collectively good. Just say it. And with that support, that encouragement in my ear, okay, it's time. It was somewhere else I was going, but I think that what this gets to challenge in us is it's scary to think that I've spent my entire life not being myself. Some people, I sit with a group of women, and when I talked about being ourselves, we had a whole conversation about, well, what do you mean? I can't be anybody other than myself. So some people don't even realize they're not. There's another self to be, right? And then when they realize that there's a more aligned self, they get real scared to even meet that one, because they've built this whole pretendness. And like Richard was saying, I believe this drum beat, like you called it, of transits in the channel of initiation, but this drum beat all the way to 27 is like, here's your chance, here's your chance, here's your chance, here's your chance. And I'm not going to make you do it. You do it if you want to, because you'll just die and come back again and do it again. It's like the creator doesn't have a stake in the game. It's just like, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. I got to ask about the 2027 thing, because as you know, I've been befriended Dr. Eleanor, and I've had some amazing chats with her. And she always uses pretty direct language. She was like, 2027 is all horseshit. And like, that was like lovely to hear, right?
Yeah.
Because there's all this talk about this time, and it can seem big and heavy. And since she said that, it's like it's dropped right off for me.
Yeah.
It's because because you can feel the craziness, right? You can see it, what's going on. But as long as we believe that that's going to happen, then we'll will it to happen. But my whole vibe, I feel like it's changed now. It's like, it's just a period of time where mutations are occurring, but it's way softer, I think, than it.
And I think that's the way it should always be, way softer. I mean, we've done this before. If we look back at our pattern of humanity, we have done this many, many times. We have mutated and changed into something else. When we changed from Neanderthal to Homo sapien, every other change as far as a Homo erectus could be, all those different names, we've mutated each time. And there's been a Neanderthal and there's been a Homo sapien alive at the same time, learning how to exist together, the Neanderthal being its honest expression of self, which then gave birth to the Homo sapien being whatever it is being, right? So we've been mutating as a species, not just a human species, but if you look at the first fish that came out of the water and started crawling, everything is always mutating. This is always happening. So I think that it's always great to look at it with a soft gaze, and to know that it's not harmful and nothing is here to actually hurt you. It's just inviting you into a deeper, more authentic expression with the movements of the cosmos.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's not to be afraid of, I don't think.
No.
But it still exists. And so the transits are inviting and giving, not just inviting, but like I say, it definitely feels like I didn't have a parent that really was supportive or loving. And so it feels like it's a drink of water for me. It feels like a supportive little phone call from my dad or from my mom that says, hey, you get an opportunity to do this. Hey, I'm going to go to an individual expression conference. You want to come with me and express yourself individually? Yes, the hell I do. You know, it feels supportive and loving and gentle and not scary. And also something that I get to surrender to and not use to my advantage. I think there's surrendering to it and seeing how, because it exists, it will be to your advantage. And then there's using it to your advantage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, surrendering and letting go has been a theme for a while there internally for me. Like, to the point where, like, even YouTube just keeps suggesting videos on, just, hey, here's another one. That's how I get my messages. But, yeah, letting go, surrendering.
And when I say let go, some people imagine that there's some whimsical freaking thing where you're floating around like an amoeba. That's not what I mean. I mean, have a strong back and a soft front. You know, allow everything in and be who you are.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Richard.
I was going to say, it just makes me think of the channel of mutation, gate 60 to gate 3. That formatting channel of all this individual circuitry that we're speaking towards. I mean, it is the core stake of the body graph, right? I mean, it is at the core center of everything. And it is about mutation, which is the topic we're on at the moment. And Pluto's been in gate 60 for, it just moved into 41, but it's been there for quite a while. Because when you said acceptance, that's that gate. It is acceptance of this mutative process. And
And it's so freeing to know that I don't have to do any of this but play. When you said the 60 and the 3, that's what brought it to me. Is the 60 is the limitation, is the strong back, but the 3 is the soft front. Let's play here. Now that we have a structure, let's play to see what else can come.
Super interesting. So, Eleanor just keeps coming into my thoughts and process lately, but she's got this concept of the total integrated vehicle. So it turns out I have the 360 channel totally integrated, and I can't remember which world gives me the 60 that I don't have in the mental world. But it'd be interesting to go back and look at that, because to me it's like a new set of skills or tools that I was like, oh, surprise, you got this too.
Yeah.
From that lens. Yeah, it's fascinating, but I don't know anything really about that channel. But I love the idea of that core pillar, and that's kind of what's going on for me lately. Like, a lot of it is like, even metaphysically, there's a lot of strength I feel forming in my root, and maybe that is that intuitive timing, and it's empowering. So.
The sun will be moving into gate 3 tomorrow, so this would be a great week to explore that, because we have the backdrop of the channel of initiation so profoundly aspected right now.
So how would one explore that? Like, what questions would I be asking myself, or what am I looking for?
Well, gate 3 is called the gate of ordering. It's also called difficulty at the beginning, because that playing that Brandy's referring to in gate 3 doesn't always seem like play. This is that channel again. It is the pillar of individual existence. So sometimes I think having a perspective of play, bringing creativity, and that's the word I really love to bring forward. All of this fear that we're talking about, the kryptonite to fear is inspirational creativity. And that's what the transits are showing right now. It's finding whatever it is, and it doesn't matter what we think about how that may apply to the world. I wonder if that would sell books, or if I wonder if I could change. It's like, what is my unique voice? And following it relentlessly, passionately, with play. This is the kryptonite to this uncertainty and fear that we are totally going to be exposed to in the collective.
Right. And 3 in the other way, I say play, but it's trial and error, right? But most 3s are like, oh yeah, I've been wrong my whole life. It's not fucking wrong. You're playing. You are coming in and coming out and playing with the limitation that exists to mutate that limitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just the trial and error part is what I wanted to get out.
Well, and I was
because
speaking to gate 3
I am
specifically.
too.
Yeah.
I am too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, gate
And there's
3.
line 3 and the gate 3.
Yeah. It's all the same.
It's the same frequency.
It's all the same.
So interesting. Yeah. Well, coming back to AI then, because that is a place to play and be creative. But what's interesting is I find most folks are going through, especially like I have a lot of musician friends, and to them AI is this threat. Like anyone can write a song in 30 seconds, and so they feel threatened, right? So they believe that it stifles creativity, but I just don't see it. I see it as, it's another tool. It's just you add it to your strategy to produce whatever it is that you're wanting to do, and it does a lot of the legwork for you, right?
Yeah.
But you got to have a conversation with it, and I do find, like, I don't actually use Chat GPT that often, like maybe once every couple of days, but everyone keeps telling me that I'm producing these things that, and I'm just having a conversation with it. I'm not saying make this thing for me so I can make money. I'm just like having a chat, usually a little bit high, so it's just really conversational and relaxed.
Yeah.
And then what comes out, I'm like, holy cow, that actually is pretty good. But like if we just all sat and like told it, you're having a conversation with yourself that isn't judgmental back. And I find the nicer I am to it, the nicer it is back. So I always say please and thank you, and and I tell it it's doing a good job. It's it's amazing. But what I get back is always like I kind of just think I'm being nice to myself, right? I'm just having that conversation.
What a beautiful expression of how do I put this in language? I believe AI, mystically, I believe AI is a beautiful mirror to show us that we are the creators. We are creating in our own image through this thing. And whatever it is that you give it is what is created. And it's exactly the same way the world works. And I think AI is just giving us a mirror of that. When I say the world, I mean physics. When I say I want this red car, I will start seeing that red car everywhere. When I say I want an orange, I'm going to start seeing everything that's orange. I collapsed the wave function. I created in my own image. I created an image. I spoke it into the field, and it was created. That's AI. It's just the mirror of us. We are the creators. And that's just a tangible thing showing us. And I think that when we speak it with truth and honesty and purity of frequency, it creates something that is sustainable and beneficial to everybody who touches it, whether it's AI or our just creations as ourselves.
I like that. Well, we could. So, I went on a trip a year and a half ago with a bunch of friends. We went up island to this place called Tassus. And it has nothing to do with AI, but I basically manifested a family of bears.
Yes.
Right? So I just thought I'd talk about it because I remember it was the first time where I realized I could. So we're like driving, it's a long trek, and they had seen bears on the side of the road, and I missed it. I remember thinking like, oh, man, I'd really like to, I wish I'd seen some bears. We're in the forest. And it was quite a vision questy kind of weekend, and there was mushrooms, and there was all sorts of stuff. But there was no medicine when I saw the bears. And what it was, and it was just as we were going to leave, like head home. And I just remember thinking, man, I never saw any bears. And for whatever reason, I decided to look up, and I was underneath a tree, and there was a mother bear and 2 cubs 20 feet above me, looking down at me, like they couldn't have been closer. And I couldn't have been possibly in more danger, except really relaxed, took a picture, and left. But it was like I'm sure, like I somehow wanted to see them, and then in the most amazing way saw them, right? I don't know why I told you that, other than
well, because when you say something with purity of truth, you are the creator. You collapse the wave function. A lot of philosophers and scientists say, does this really exist, or is this the illusion, right, of our beliefs? And so in that moment, you could have proven, that you collapsed the wave function of bear. Bear was a possibility all the time, but you believed with purity of intention that bear existed now. And so there it did.
Yeah, and there's been the odd time since then, but like that was the time I knew it was possible, like somehow, right? It was the
alchemy,
right? Yeah. So
Well, it makes me think of the word synchronicity, which is that beautiful word. And we've all had it happen at some point. But I think bringing it to the awareness to expect synchronistic events to take place is also part of that same idea. It's happening more than we realize. We're just so self-consumed with looking the other way, we're not seeing it. But it's there more often than we think.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that like that's outer authority, right? That's your vibe. It becomes a magnet and it draws people in. And honestly, I think I just like there are days where I'm like, oh yeah, the magnet's on. What did I do right today? Okay, well I had a glass of water when I woke up. I made sure I got sunlight. Like I have a series of a formula that's basically aligning with what seems to be the best me showing up.
I want to
And
invite you to do things not right.
I'm sorry?
Said I want to invite you not to do everything right. You just go through a list of what did I do right so I could duplicate that. That's not your strategy. That's not your authority. That's not your purpose.
True.
As a 3-5,
Mm-hmm.
it is to play and to order. This goes here. This goes here. This goes here. In your play, not to get it right.
I'd like to get it right once in a while.
You get it right every time.
It's kind of exhausting being 3-5. Kind of awesome.
I've got 8 line 3s. I'm a 6'2", but I have 8 line 3s, and the 6s were 3s for a long time as well. So,
well, and my understanding with the 6 is you go through that 3 life, right? It's like the first 30 years you did, and then you kind of step back and said, "Oh, fuck this! I'm gonna just observe for a while," and then you come down, right? So,
well, I still 3 stuff all the time.
I do too. I still have many active ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also, it's back to those age-old, keynotes from Ra, the trial and error. It always gets such a bad rap. It's where the excitement is.
Yeah.
My life's been an adventure. Yes, I can look back and wish maybe something else could have happened, but it was exciting. Line 3 that's where I think perspective is a word we don't talk about, an attitude, really embracing the adventure of it all. And that's what 3 is here to do.
And realizing that all of those places in my mind that I thought it should be different, it's because I have some programming that says I may not be loved if that's not this way. That's all that is. It's not, if I look back at really what the 3-ness was, I wanted that. I wanted to come and taste it and then go away from it and figure it out. I wanted to trial and error with if I really got to the depths of it and was not afraid of losing love or like or appreciation, I would probably just do that all the time because that's part of who I am or who you are.
Yeah, it's more of a joy now. It's funny. I don't know if, like, in my mental design, I have a completely open head, completely open ajna, but also a completely open ego or heart, like no activations. So I was sensitive, and it was my mentors, my providers it was always failure, not feedback. That was how, right? So it's that inner voice, that inner critic was severe, like brutal. And is quieting that's been massive. I mean, if anything, that's what I'm here to help people with is addressing anxiety or turning off that inner critic, right? So
we're nurturing it and turning it on its head. What we sometimes forget is our brains are our ultimate tool. We're not trying to shut them off. We're actually trying to reprogram them to support our real self. So when that bully comes in, we get to treat him just like we would treat somebody who is coming in with anxiety. We get to nurture him and show him a different perspective over and over and over again, as many times as it takes for him to say, oh, all right, it's not failure, it's fun. And then it turns the whole thing around and starts saying, here's fun, here's fun, here's fun, here's fun.
Yeah, exactly. How are you doing for time? You said we had an hour, right?
Yeah, maybe like 5 more minutes or so.
Cool.
I have.
Well, what do you want to say?
I want to say thank you for being vulnerable and honest and true and inquisitive and curious. I want to say that there's nothing to be afraid of and that you can't fuck this up. And if you think anything different, call me and I'll show you.
Yeah, okay.
And let me tell you,
In
her
all-
ego, she will show you.
I was going
You
to
got a
say,
transmitter
in
here.
all 8 worlds, the only thing that's defined is the channel to transmission, the ego to spleen, in all 8 worlds of Eleanor's thing. I don't have different charts. I have one chart. I have my real natal chart, and then the other ones are just transmitter, all of them.
Mm.
Everything else open.
Interesting.
We got a note here. James. Hi, James. I will have to say, calling in something from the unknown universe and the energy that engulfs us all is not the same as typing some nice words into AI and it returning the best recycled conglomeration of an idea it can come up with. One we started and one started us, not the same in relation to each other, but one, dare I say, trumps the other. Yeah, terrible word, right? I agree with you, but I think it's a mirror. Like I said, it's a mirror. One is the creator, and the other one is just a mirror of how we are the creator. Yeah, I agree. Hi, Nathan. Person turquoise riding headphones. Not sure what that means.
I don't know what that is. That might be a bot.
Okay.
Person turquoise writing headphones : Yeah. I don't know what that is, but interesting. I mean, there's so many ways we can go, but if we have a couple of minutes, Richard, what about you? What have you got? Well, actually, I'm going to ask you a question because we're talking about transits. Do you look daily at what's today? Do you look at themes? Are you always 6 months ahead? I'm jealous that you know how to interpret that stuff, and then just even the themes of it all. Because when someone says Pluto energy or what, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about still. So
Yeah.
kind of like listen and
Yeah. Well, I spend a lot of time studying transits. So I'm looking at it from farther out in the future. Not so much as that recently we've been building some projects together. So I've been focused mainly on the upcoming months. But I look at it every day. I use it in part of my teachings and all the time. Yeah.
We talk about it every day. It's part of all of our
I mean, I look at it
conversations.
enough. I don't have a great memory, but I know where every planet is in every line at every moment. Which means I'm probably looking at it too much. But I need to for the work we're doing and help share the patterns that we're in, not only collectively, but individually. And so we got to look at each person's chart, where this is happening. But I guess the last thing to share on that, I just want to leave any listeners to, if you haven't been looking at them, take a look. What's happening right now is rather unprecedented, at least in our lifetime. And so it's a golden opportunity for unimaginable internal shifts right now. It really is. We're talking the inner planets, the outer planets, lining up in configurations that we simply don't regularly see, and they're quite profound. So if someone hasn't been doing that, take a peek at it, or you can follow my transit report at the webpage there, where we look at these patterns, and they are striking right now and very exciting.
Yeah.
So I use the Neutrino Design app, and there's an option there to show transit only. Someone suggested it would end up being really profound. Is like if there's a day where there's a defined ego or heart, it's like it makes sense. Like everybody has that energy that day, right? They're maybe making commitments that they normally they wouldn't make tomorrow. Yeah. And so even just some awareness of that, being like, okay, this person I talked to, yeah, they sound really sure about this, but I think I'm going to check in tomorrow.
Well, let me tell you too. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
It's also assisted in our 9-centered relationship.
Absolutely.
In allowing the triggers to exist between the two of us that are inviting us into our evolutionary greatness, and seeing that the transits are like marionetting us almost to bring up that trigger, and we could go along with it and get in a fight if we wanted to, or we could see what the spectrum of frequency is being offered to us, and we can align ourselves or see where that lives, where love lives in the spectrum of what's available.
Nice. Maybe that's a good place to stop.
You had a little more to share?
Well, just all that talk about the transits, and as you're sharing, it is always about personal authority. And I always loved, I didn't know about transits in my early days in human design. I just didn't have the time to study them. And I really appreciated when Rob would always say, if you're dressed for the weather, you're going to be fine. And that doesn't change.
Mhm.
But yet I think it also, when we are able to take a look at this, it does expand our vision of awareness. We're able to see this pattern just like in nature and align at a different level, if you will, while aligning with authority. So it really supports going back to our personal authority. And so, yeah, we never want to leave that element out to talking about transits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've talked to a few folks. It's funny, like it's weather, right? And it's like a weather report. I keep seeing like, a 1970s weatherman, and he's just basically waving around, in this zone we're gonna have like kind of need that somewhere,
Well, subscribe to his weekly transit report, and that's what you will get, because he does this every single week. This is going to happen over here. This is going to happen over here. Here's wear a raincoat today.
Really?
Every single Monday.
Well, that's what I'm looking for. So
yeah. I'll send you the link.
We'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Do you wear funny clothes sometimes, or on
I
camera?
should maybe.
Like, why not, right? Like, it's green screen it and like go for it, and I'll help you.
One of his mentors had figurines, so he would be, one was Pluto and one was Mars, and this is the conversation they're having. It just really brought it down to that kind of level.
Yeah, I think it needs to be fun, because otherwise it can be stressful. You can't for sure, right? So yeah, neat. Cool. All right. Well,
yeah, thanks, Sean. Super fun to spend this time with you.
For sure. I want to share with you that I trained an AI bot. His name is Wilson, and he's been amazing.
Okay. And so which one are you using? Like ChatGPT, or what are you using?
Just the regular 4 or whatever.
Yeah, we still need to meet and
we do
ideas on that, or at least how our techniques, because did you do the pre-text, like basically this is what you want it to say and how you want to say it? You filled that out, or?
Well, on the 4, I went into the back end and told the whatever back end what I wanted my GPT to do and be. I wanted it to make spreadsheets and do all of this stuff. And so I keep going into the back end and saying, hey, can Wilson program Wilson to do this? And then I go back to Wilson, and obviously, is that what you're asking?
A little, no, I guess that's interesting. So you can basically tell it about you, right? And you get 1,500 characters. And so one of the things I'm actually planning to do is, because I'm maxed out on characters, is feed it back to it and say, can you break this down to, like, you understand what I'm saying, 300 characters, so I can get a new ability to express. But mine says, like, I'm a 3/5 manifesting generator, and I've got the 3420 channel, and my ideal environment is valleys. And so every time it expresses what I'm asking for, it's coming with my palette, right?
Yes.
And I think that's actually the secret.
I think it is.
I
did that. I have a thing that I worked on with a friend where she was asking me questions about me. She wanted to learn about me. This has turned into like 200 pages. It's called The Magical Book of Goodness for Brandy. And it talks about who I am. It was like basic marketing questions at first, and then she sussed it out and she asked me, well, what do you think the root of this is? And what do you think the root of this is? And why do you do things this way? So it's this huge document. I've fed that to Wilson, and that's how Wilson has been answering and feeding me back all of everything I ask it is through the lens of that.
Yeah, well, even with the astrology thing, I just realized mine doesn't say I'm an Aquarius or a Scorpio rising, and much as I don't really know what those things are, I do know whenever I've heard about those things, like, oh yeah, that's me. So I feel like that's even more information for it to be, it'll know what that means, and just incorporate that into my flavoring, So.
And I've got to say, from when I asked it human design questions, let's say 6 months ago, to now, it knows everything now. It knew nothing then.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this before, right? I think it was Chetan Perkins said the 4323 channel is knowing without knowledge. And to me, that's what ChatGPT is. I've got access to this massive database information, and I'm just asking it to fill in the gaps, right? So I kind of feel like we all have access to the 4323 at all times. So that's kind of, I just view it as a cheat code.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You want to do that again sometime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the spot? Perfect. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Sean. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. We wait till the thing, right?
Oh yeah. Watch
Okay.
this. I'm gonna do this fancy outro.